Good morning, y'all. Oh, okay. Am I good? Can you all hear me in the back? Yes? All right. So I'm from Texas, and because I'm from Texas, I can say y'all, all right? But thank you so much for a warm New Jersey welcome on this cold winter day. Cold. That's why we moved to Texas, one of the reasons. But then, this winter, we've had the coldest winter since 1913. So I'm not sure what that's all about. It must be global warming, I'm thinking. Yes. All right. Well, it is my pleasure to be here, and I want to say thank you for inviting me. I'm not sure exactly who was responsible, but I am thrilled to be here in this room with all of you. If you could just stand here and see y'all, it's like you're just beautiful. And, early in the morning, you're beautiful. Yes, it takes some of us a whole lot longer to get ready and be semi-beautiful, but the older we get, the longer it takes, let me tell you. But there's some beautiful people here, and I mean, all of you just I felt the life. My sister, Fi, would you please stand? As we came into the room, we're like, wow, this place is alive, and I love to be around people that are alive. And last night, Teresa, thank you, where is she, for a great evening of just, 20 or 30 of us women were there, and great food, and wow, great fellowship and great connection, and thank you so much. Mark and Jim, they were our Uber guys last night. They picked us up and took us where we needed to go. And let me see, did I miss anyone else? I may have Clara. Clara was our, she just helped us to get where we needed to be, in our hospitality girls. So we are surrounded by great people. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to just be with you, to share my story for God's glory. Oh, and Mel and Ginny Sickler, where are you at? Mel and Ginny. Oh, there they are. They're franchisees over here at the Deptford Mall and have been Auntie Anne fans. I mean, I've been a fan of theirs for about 27 years. I'll never forget the day we came to Deptford Mall. Yeah. So not only do they serve a great pretzel, but we had one last night. Oh, and by the way, Jim, would you please stand? I'm just saying, I took him to the Auntie Anne store in Mount Ginny. You got to meet this guy. He never had a pretzel until last night.
My wife, she makes that.
Yeah, your wife. All right. So I'm just saying, we're in 48 states and in 26 countries, and we have about 1,900 locations, and I wonder where Jim lives. I don't know, but hey, listen, I have a few minutes this morning, and I want you just relax. And basically, I came to share my story for God's glory. Many years ago, I was speaking somewhere, and after I was done speaking, I was so frustrated, and I was complaining to God, like, I don't want to do this. I mean, there's thousands of speakers out there. I'm not equipped to do this. And he said to me, I heard in my heart, he said, I've never asked you to speak out of your intellect. I only want you to speak out of your experience. And I said, all right, I can do that. So that's what I'm here to do this morning. I'm going to start with just mentioning Psalm 40, verse 1 through 3. Thank you for reading that so well. That is my story in a nutshell. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he turned to me. And, it's personal, people. I serve God. He's a personal God. He's not just somebody way out there somewhere, but he is a personal God. And I waited for him for many years, and he came to me, and you all heard the rest of the verse, and many will see, I will share my story, and many will hear how faithful God has been to me. I'm here today because of the power of grace and one really good man. Melanie, you know my really good man, don't you? Yeah, Mr. Jonas Beiler. And the power of grace, we all know, comes from God himself through Christ. But I'm here because of the power of grace and one good man Now, Jonas has been my one good married man for over 51 years now. Can you imagine that? And we knew each other since I'm 16, so you can do the math and figure out how old I am if you feel it. But I feel just so grateful for the one good man in my life. And if it wasn't for him, I would not be standing here today. So, okay, listen, guys. You know, it's really, I know we're crazy women. We all know that, right? We admit that we're a really hot mess sometimes. You know, but if you're a really good man, somehow the two of you can get together and make it work. It's worth the struggle. If you just hang in there, I can tell you the end of the story is better than somewhere in the middle. It was not good for us. But my husband stayed with me, loved me as Christ loved him, and the combination made us just stay together and be successful as a couple. So I'm grateful for my husband. I want to talk a bit about my personal journey and end up with the story, the power of purpose. Out of her pain, our purpose was born. I love a quote by T. Byram Karasu, who's a medical doctor, says in his book called The Spirit of Happiness. This is what he says about your purpose. Identifying your purpose in life is the toughest task that you will ever face. But once you define your purpose, the meaning of your life will become clearer. And all other tasks, no matter, this is nuts. And all other tasks will become easier once you discover your purpose. I couldn't say it any better. It is really the purpose for my life that got me through the tough times in my life, in my personal life, and also in my business life. I grew up in the Amish church on an Amish farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. How many of you have ever been tourists in Lancaster County? Many of you. It's really a great part of the country to live in. Mom and Dad, there were 8 of us kids, and Mom and Dad, and growing up on the farm was really an idyllic and a great way to start life. Hard work was the order of the day. Mom and Dad taught us about faith in God. They taught us how to love each other. They taught us how to do teamwork. And they taught us that if you're going to love your community, you're going to love each other first in the home. It's important to start in the home. And that's what Mom and Dad taught us. And all of this set me up to become a successful businesswoman. Now, my dad lived in the task-oriented era. That means that you just had to, you had a task and you had to finish it. You had to get it done. You did whatever it took to get the job done. And let me tell you, on the farm, actually, the job was never completed. There was always more to do. But it was all about task. Today, the employee poll is quite different, and we live in a time-oriented era. Let me explain to you. When an employee comes for an interview, or when someone comes for an interview, one of the first questions they ask is, how much vacation do I get? Right? They didn't start the job yet. We're living in a time-oriented era. So that means we have to adjust ourselves. How do we do this as business owners? It's not right or wrong. It's just the times that we live in. But back in the day, it was all about doing a job and doing it well. And that's what I took with me as I embarked on my journey of Auntie Anne's. I'm grateful for my parents. Mom and Dad didn't leave me with much financially, but they left me with a great inheritance. And I am forever grateful for what Mom and Dad instilled in me as a child. The Auntie Anne story is a true success story, but it's also a modern-day business miracle. A miracle is simply something that defies the odds. It just shouldn't have happened, right? Auntie Anne's defied the odds. According to the standards of this world and the educational system, Auntie Anne's should have never been successful. And I know I was not qualified. Can you all still hear me back there? Am I keeping my microphone where it needs to be? All right. I knew early on in the life of Auntie Anne's that I was not qualified according to the systems of this world. And I can tell you there wasn't a headhunter anywhere that would have come looking for Ann Beiler to be the CEO of an international franchise company. I guarantee you that. But according to God and His standards, I was qualified. It's pretty amazing. I didn't feel qualified, but over time, He taught me how to become a businesswoman. So, in a nutshell, I love God, I made a pretzel, and the rest is history. Isn't that great? With faith and hard work, I want to leave you with this message today, and I want you to hear this. With faith and hard work, all things are possible. That's what I know. Success is defined as an event that accomplishes its intended purpose, its prosperity, or fame. Back in 1989, I had one store, and we made about 4,000 pretzels in 2 days. Okay, how many of y'all make in 2 days? It was a lot of rolling pretzels, and we were so busy. I felt at that time extremely successful. And I felt like I had reached the ultimate success back in 1989. I could never have imagined, planned, dreamed about what was about to come. Success is hard work. Y'all know that, right? It's hard work. It's simply making it happen. A miracle is sitting back and watching it happen. And I can tell you I did both. I did the hard work, and I watched the miracle unfold. People came to Auntie Anne's from all over the country and around the world within a couple of years. I don't know how Mel and Jeannie found Auntie Anne's. I have no idea, except I think that you tasted an Auntie Anne pretzel. Am I right? And you said, wow, we want to do an Auntie Anne store. Is that right? Basically. And that's how we built our company. By the product itself is what made people interested in coming to Auntie Anne's to become a franchisee. Many times I would feel like I was just on the outside looking in, and I was just along for the ride. There are many reasons that I believe that Auntie Anne's is a miracle. The number one reason is because by the age of 39, I thought life was over for me. I had experienced the death of our 19-month-old sweet Angie, 19 months and 12 days. On a beautiful September morning, life was good. Everything was okay in my life. I grew up in this great family, and I had lots of faith, and my husband and I were happily married, and I was living my dream. As a little Amish girl, all I really ever wanted to be was a wife, a mom, and have my own family. And we were living our dream. But September the 8th, a beautiful fall morning, Angela Joy stepped out of our little double-wide trailer. She made her little journey to my mom's house that morning. We lived on the same farm, so it was safe to be there, or so we thought. And as Angie was making her journey to my mom's, a few hundred feet from my house, my sister, Fi, was driving a Bobcat. and did not see Angie that morning. And as she turned the bobcat and looked forward, Angie's body was laying on the ground, and she'd been killed instantly that morning. Tragedy changes you. It will never be the same again. And I remember the days when I wanted to go back to the way it used to be. I desperately tried to go back to the way it was. And it's impossible to go back to the way it was. Her death took me into a place of deep grief that I never knew existed. My grief, in turn, then took me to my pastor's office. And I went for help, but instead of finding the help that I needed, he took advantage of me that morning. And because of that, I kept this secret. And I decided that day I would never tell anyone what just happened. I didn't know anything about abuse of spiritual power. I didn't know anything about sexual abuse. I knew nothing about that. Very naive, yes, I was. But I knew that wasn't okay. And I knew I could never tell. Here I am. Not only did I write a book about it, but I'm able to talk about my life story because of the power of confession, which was read this morning, James 5:16. Confess your faults, your sin, your struggles, your pain, whatever it is that bothers you, one with another, and you'll be healed. I didn't know that at that time, but I kept that secret. And that secret then took me into almost 7 years of abuse in every way. The path I was on nearly destroyed me. And that's why I said at the age of 39, I really thought that life was over for me. I was depleted of my self-esteem. My faith was gone. And as a result, I lived with mild to severe depression for nearly 25 years. I lived with pain, blame, and shame, and a life of secrets. And no one knew, and I would never tell. Let me tell you, my secret had far-reaching implications. It nearly destroyed me, my family, my children. And what I know today is that secrets, over time, will destroy. What I also know today is that alone we die. Connected we live. That's why we're here today. Gentlemen, keep doing this. We feel alone many times as business leaders, whatever, wherever you find yourself. Many times we feel alone. But it's these kind of events that connect us. And it's in this place we begin to live. Alone we die, connected we live. So in your pain, in your struggle, whatever you're facing, instead of isolating yourself, begin to connect with others. And that's where you will find life. I was sick, body, soul, and spirit, and weighed 92 pounds back in 1982. But if you ask me how I was doing back in those days, can you guess what I would say? I'm just fine. That's the way it is. We're all just fine. But I was dying inside, and I was learning how to live a life of pretense. It's a very long story, and if you want to know more about some of those details, I wrote the book, The Secret Lies Within, which we have here today. And I finally had the courage to write about my experience with secrets. And I talk about overcoming trauma in this book and what sexual abuse and abuse of power is all about. So I would love for y'all to just pick up your copy and maybe pick one up or two for a Christmas gift for your friends. But I'm so grateful that I was able to make this journey, and here I am today. James 5:16 is a powerful, small little verse talking about being real, being authentic, and just being who we are instead of trying to pretend that we're someone that we're not. This single truth then put me on a path that completely changed my entire future. Without that one single confession that I made to my husband that day back in 1982, it was hard. It was humiliating. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I thought that I could do this alone. Like I could just get through this all by myself. But I couldn't. One day God just said to me, get up off your knees and go tell your husband. Oh, I wanted to stay on my knees, people. Y'all know what I mean? Yeah, surely some of you know what I'm talking about, right? But it took so much courage for me to do that, but I did. And I can tell you, without that single confession to my husband, there would be no Auntie Anne's today. Imagine that. Imagine a world without Auntie Anne's. I mean, for reals, right? I know that truth. It's powerful. We never know what's on the other side. But if we can push through our fears, listen, there's more than what you know. There's more than you know. I want to talk about out of our pain, our purpose was born. I had no clue that I would recover from this devastation and then experience one of the most life-changing events of my life. Auntie Anne's. Now, I knew nothing about business, as I referred to earlier, and I certainly didn't know anything about franchising or the corporate world. That was a whole other world that I knew nothing about. I'm a farm girl. Through Auntie Anne's, I found my purpose. Out of our pain, Jonas, my husband, began to be so intrigued with human behavior and how could this happen and what is this all about? And he began to study psychology. And he became a layman's counselor after years of study. And then he decided that he wants to counsel people as a free service in the Amish and the community, Amish and Mennonite community. And that's what he did for 10 years. But he was doing that for about a month and there was no money in the bank. We came back from Texas in 1987, lived there for 10 years. Came back with $25 in our pocket, and the house had been repossessed. It was during there was the oil bust back in the late 80s, and we were impacted by that. So we moved back to Pennsylvania. And this all happened prior to that. But when we came back, we had nothing. We rented a little trailer, and it was pretty much of a dump. But my brother said, if you want to live there, Jake, he said, if you want to live there, you can stay there free, but maybe you could fix up the trailer. And so that's what we did. We had no idea what God had in store for us. But my husband knew what his purpose was. That he was going to counsel as many people as he could, and it was going to be a free service. After about a month of that, I said to him one day, hon, I think I need to go to work. I mean, like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And so we talked about it, and I found a job at a little farmer's market making salt pretzels. Out of our pain, our purpose was born. Our purpose was to help other people through counseling. Through Auntie Anne's, I found my purpose. Purpose is an object toward which one strives to accomplish a result that is desired. And it's also just plain down determination. Our purpose led us to a higher calling, to be profitable so that we could be charitable. Our purpose was to be a light in the world of business. Those two things were very clear to us. The three things that I did not have when I started Auntie Anne's was a formal education. We had no capital, and we had no business plan. I'm just saying. That's why I said earlier, according to the standards of the world, I was not qualified. Now you can see what I meant by that. I didn't have a formal education because in the Amish culture, you go through the 8th grade And then you help your family on the farm, and that's what I did. And by the way, I did that with great joy. And another note, I don't feel embarrassed. I'm not ashamed. It doesn't matter to me that I didn't have a formal education. I believe in formal education. We need teachers and professors, and we need that in our world. I'm not anti-education, but that was not my life, and that is not my story. So I can't stand up here and pretend that I am something that I am not. I'm so proud of my heritage. What I didn't have really didn't matter after a time. I'm not a high school dropout, so that should make you happy. Okay, thank you. I received my high school diploma at the age of 50 because I realized over time that God put me in that position, and it wasn't about managing a company. It became about being a leader. And a leader is all about being a good example. A leader is not about sitting behind the desk, raking in the dough, putting it in the bank, and just not caring about your people. A leader is all about being an example and an influence to your people, your family, your community, your people, your church, wherever you go. That's what I believe the role of a leader is to be responsible and influential. And so at the age of 50, I went and got my diploma because I kept hearing these things, Auntie Ann didn't go to high school. I don't need to go to high school. I don't need to. Yes, you do. Yes, I'm saying you do. And then before I received my high school diploma, I received my first of 2 honorary doctorate degrees. So, I don't know. I can't. That's my story. So what can I say? But I do know that God just said to me, no worries. I got you covered. And He surely has. The second thing we did not have was capital. We moved back from Texas, as I mentioned before, after living there for 10 years with $25 cash in our pocket. We came to Pennsylvania unemployed. We had no home. That sounds sad, doesn't it? But it was like we were on a journey. We knew we were on a faith journey. We knew that God would provide for us. We didn't know how, but we knew He would. Number 3, the business plan. We didn't have a business plan because we really didn't know that we needed one. That's plain and simple. We just didn't understand that. But what we knew was we needed to go into this farmer's market and serve a great product and work really hard. And we knew that somehow it would work out. Maybe you're beginning to see the picture. Auntie Anne's is a modern-day business miracle. The 3 things that I did not have became a non-issue. This is so important. It became a non-issue when I really understood what I have. So often we fret about what we don't have. We focus on what we don't have. I mean, really, people, you can't do anything with what you don't have. That's pretty profound. I mean, right? Yeah. Let me just say yes. Thank you. And we cannot do anything with what we don't have. But you can do a whole lot with what you have. And my husband and I, we began to understand we're going to stop fretting about wishing I was like everybody else out there that knew more than I did, that had more money than I did, that had more education than I did. And it was intimidating. And I would whine to my husband like, whining and complaining about what I did not have. Finally, he said to me one day, "Hon, we just stop complaining. Stop comparing yourself with everybody else. And just be who God made you." Like, wow, all right, that's pretty profound, I guess, but there's something about what he said at that moment that there's something rang in my heart that I really need to focus on what I have and stop complaining and comparing. What we realized, the three things that we had were a great purpose, a great product, and great people. We had a purpose that was bigger than ourselves, and we had a product that is better than the best. I mean, can I have a shout out and say yes? And we had people that were loyal to the purpose. And when you discover your purpose, guaranteed, you'll face many obstacles, which I did on a daily basis. As I made my rounds in the world of business, I realized that three things that I didn't have, I should have had. Like everywhere I went, I'm like, I should have this. And the intimidation factor nearly froze me. It almost I almost became just frozen with the fact, the intimidation that I felt. And when our fear is greater than our faith, our purpose will be blocked. Face your fears. We all have fears. Face them. But don't get stuck in them. Walk through them to the other side. There's a verse in Psalm 32, verse 8, that became my guiding verse. It simply says, I will instruct you, and I will teach you in the way that you should go. And I will counsel you with my eye. And listen, I took that verse literally and constantly asked God to guide us. And he has. Not only has he guided us, but he's walked with us every step of the way. It was at that point I stopped whining about what I didn't have, and I began to put all of my energy into what I had and to become the best that I could possibly be. And I realized over time that what I had was far greater than what I didn't have. We had a great purpose, a great product, and great people. Purpose will give you three things. The power to overcome any obstacle that you will face. It will give you a passion that is unbelievable. And it will give you a position of influence. That's what purpose will give to you. The power to overcome. In 1988, we started Auntie Anne's with $6,000 from my father-in-law, my Amish father-in-law, who had lots of money. Yeah, he did. He was a wealthy Amishman. And he told us he'll give us whatever we need to start a business or build a house. And we kept saying, well, we're not going to build a house. We don't have the money to pay for a house. Well, he said, I'll give you money for a business if you want it. That was before the Auntie Anne idea ever came to be. So when we were offered the location in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, my father-in-law gave us $6,000. By 1992, we had opened our 100th store. By 1995, we opened our first international store in Jakarta, Indonesia. Like, wow, yeah. Why? Halfway around the world. Why didn't we go to Canada or Mexico? I don't know. I've always said, you know what? If you go, I decided if I go halfway around the world, my common sense would say anything closer would be easier, I suppose. So we went halfway around. No kidding. That was the hardest trip I ever made. That trip, from the time I left Gap, Pennsylvania, with all my delays and all the bad weather, by the time I got to Jakarta, Indonesia, I had been en route 91 hours, not counting time change. It was the flight from hell, I think. But we got there and we worked for about 2 weeks, and hey, Auntie Anne's was firmly planted in Jakarta, Indonesia. There we were. The growth was fast and it was intense for me. And there were times I wanted to run away. I would actually think, I just can't do this. I'm just going to run away. Where am I going to run to? I don't know, but that was my thought. Auntie Anne stretched me to the point of personal, professional, and spiritual exhaustion. I learned early on that if we were to grow as an organization and to fulfill the purpose that was very clear to us, I knew that as the founder and the leader, I would have to grow. I knew if I was to grow professionally, then I would have to grow personally as well. It's a winning combination, personal and professional growth. I had lots of adversity to overcome. I had to get over who I was to become who I wanted to be. I read books on this subject of franchising, leadership, management. I did personality profiles until I was completely confused about who in the heck am I. I didn't know anymore. I went to seminars and workshops, did training in leadership. I learned the art of delegation. And over time, I got comfortable in my own skin. It's been quite a journey. And I evolved. Eventually, I became a businesswoman. And I loved who I had become. I loved what I was doing. I loved the people that were around me. I was always amazed about the employees that we had, about the franchisees that came to us. I mean, we were this little fledgling company in a little storefront in Gap, Pennsylvania. We had one small office, and we maximized a strip center that was, I don't know, maybe 3,000 square feet, I'm not sure. But people from all over the country were coming to us. It was humbling, amazing, and always surprising to me. In this whole process, it became clear to me that Auntie Anne's was not about me, but it was about the purpose for which it had been created. Number 2, purpose will give you unbelievable passion. I became passionate about our product and the people. I cared deeply about our employees, our franchisees, and our vendors. And when you care about your people, and when you understand that your people are your greatest asset, it's not the building, it's not the advertising campaigns, it's not all the other things that you do out there, but your people are your greatest asset. And if you believe that, if you know that, then your employees will know that. And they will know that you care. You cannot always give the employees what they want. But I can tell you that you can be fair. And you can create a work environment where there are people stay for 9 years? Your manager last night, Mel Ginny, I think she said she's 9 years managing a pretzel store. Why? Because she told me, I love Mel and Ginny. Listen, love in the workplace still works in the 21st century. When you care about your people, they're going to care and they're going to be loyal to your purpose. The book, Lincoln on Leadership. Lincoln was dubbed with an MBWA, managed by walking around. He wanted to be with his people. He got to know his people. Number 3, purpose will give you an influential position. When I started Auntie Anne's, I was surprised at the way business was being done. I didn't know anything about it, but I was surprised. Like, wow, okay, I grew up on an Amish farm, you did business on a handshake. If you said you were going to do something, you did something. If you had an appointment or a commitment, you did it. So in the business world, things were a little different than that. And I decided that we would be a company of integrity. Integrity is not about being perfect, but it's about striving for excellence, and it's what we did. I wanted to be a light in the world of business. So I took my position of influence to introduce the concept of light. We did the acronym LIGHT. L, lead by example. I, invest in employees. G, give freely. H, honor God. And T, treat all business contacts with respect. It's a tall order. Tall order. We didn't do it perfectly, but that was our goal. Light became the grid that we look through on a daily basis when making decisions. And today, Auntie Anne's is around the world with around 1,900 locations and annual sales of over 850 million annually. It's just a pretzel lemonade. I mean, can you imagine that? Wow. In closing, I just want to say again that all things are truly possible. I've experienced that. God took this little Amish girl, and I tell you, she's still inside of me. Now, people look at me sometimes and they say, are you still Amish? And I say, do I look Amish? There's your answer. But God took me around the world through the model of franchising with a simple product, a great product, Auntie Anne's pretzel. What I know is you can take the girl out of the Amish, but it's a bit more difficult to take the Amish out of the girl. I've enjoyed the trip. I've been blessed beyond my wildest dreams. While living your purpose, you'll discover that you can do more than you ever dreamed or thought. And I can tell you, without purpose, I would never have been able to complete the task. Purpose will give you overcoming power, an unbelievable passion, and an influential position. Have you discovered your purpose? I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands, but many times people will tell me, no, I don't know what my purpose is. And I always say, you know what? It's never too late. And you'll discover your purpose through life's experiences. And when you discover it, not only will you be successful, but you will be effective. How many times you go to work and you feel like just another day at work? Start thinking about your people and how you can love them, how you can care for them. And let me tell you something, when you begin to do that, you will start to feel effective. I love the quote by Mother Teresa. You don't have to be famous to be effective. You just have to be faithful. And that's my encouragement to you today. Find your purpose, and you'll be effective. I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me, and he heard my cry. God bless you all. Thank you so much.